Need a plan. Need a plan real fast. I guess this is the plan! Come on, Pete, you got this! You got this, you got this, you got this! Please don't screw this up!
Hello gamers, in today's video I'm not going to waste anyone's time telling you information about this game, as at the time of its release it was the most, if not one of the most popular games. That being Spider-Man on the PS4, a game that took the world by storm to the point where many people would go out and buy a PS4 solely to play this game, and I was one of them. At this time, way back in 2018, I was in a odd place with gaming. That being, I was no longer enjoying the art of playing video games, to the point where I would hop on to do some gaming and it would feel a lot more like a chore, as I was only hopping on for the social interaction of playing R6 with my friends, instead of to relax and enjoy myself. But that changed when, for some reason, I don't even remember why, I walked into an EB Games one day and walked out with a PS4, Spider-Man, God of War, and also Far Cry 5 for some reason. Oh, and also no more money. But after that day, I slowly started to enjoy gaming more and more, and I don't think it was because of Far Cry 5. And I enjoyed this game so much that I have completed it a total of 6 times, twice on the PS4, one normal game, one new game plus, and then once again on the PS5 with 2 normal playthroughs and 1 new game plus playthrough, and then I've completed it on the PC for the making of this video. It would just be a game that I would throw on whenever I was off sick, just chuck it up on the TV, sit back, and just waste away playing the game till I felt better. And since then, I have very clearly, from the look of this channel, reignited my flame with gaming, playing lots of different games now, and still just playing R6. But this time, not to socialise, but to yell at people for being awful and not reinforcing the right walls. And there is a lot of good things to say about this Spider-Man game. So much so that I'm not really sure where to start. So let's start with the one thing that many Spider-Man games in the past have failed to get right. That being the movement system, and more importantly, the web swinging system. To the point where I'm very confident in saying that this game has the best web swinging system ever put to a game. But yet I will struggle to put into words why I liked it so much more than all the others. And I think it might be a part of its whole greater whatever that saying is. Like one thing not being great, but it has lots of great parts to its whole, I guess. Everything just comes together to make an amazing traversal system. To the point where you may even forget that this game has a fast travel system. Throughout my whole playthrough for this video, I did not use the fast travel system once. And I even did almost all the side activities. Not because I think that the side activities were incredible per se. I will talk about them at a later date. But I just enjoyed web swinging from one side of the map to the other so much. But it wasn't just the movement system that I was able to enjoy on this playthrough, as this was my first time playing the game on PC, where I was able to crank the graphics past the capabilities of the PlayStation 4 or 5. And I have to say, it ran at a smooth, buttery 60 FPS, and let's just say the game is definitely a looker. It is not as amazing looking as games like Red Dead Redemption 2 per se, but god damn, it looks pretty good, and it definitely has its moments. Now, whilst we're on the topic of looks, there is one thing that I would like to put into the bad category. Now, this is something that you may not have even noticed, but I definitely did, and I feel it was a sizable downgrade from the original PlayStation 4 version, and that is Peter Parker's face. Now, for those of you who don't know or care, between the original and the remaster of the game, they changed Peter Parker's face from one that closely resembles Tom Holland. Which obviously I'm not saying that Spider-Man looking like Tom Holland is bad or that Tom Holland is ugly by any stretch of the imagination, but I do feel the original face fits this version of Peter Parker a lot better. This game's Peter has had his powers for 8 years. He is by no stretch of the imagination a young Spider-Man. He has been weathered by his time in the suit. And on the original face, you can see that he looks more rugged and older, and in some scenes you can even see bags under his eyes, showing the player the stresses of being the Spider-Man and not getting a lot of sleep between keeping the city safe at night, working for Doc Ock during the day, if he shows up on time, that is, or puts in a single solid day of work, which it doesn't seem he does, but that's not important. And since the new face is younger to look more like Tom, his face just doesn't look right. He also looks like smoother and brighter. He looks like a very young, just got his powers Peter Parker instead of the aforementioned weathered 8 years into it Peter Parker. However, luckily, most of the game, Peter is wearing his Spidey mask, which you have a lot of choice when it comes to what suit Peter Parker will be wearing whilst web flying around the city. And this game nails the suits so much, giving you many different options, including some of the classic movie suits. For example, whilst playing one night, I took a break to go make some burgers for dinner, and whilst I was in the kitchen, I just so happened to turn on the TV, and by some miracle, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 was playing. So when I got back to my PC, feeling nostalgic for those movies for some reason, I immediately jumped into the Andrew Garfield era Spider-Man suit. But the default suit for this game with just the splash of white on it just looks so good. But however, my all-time favourite suit in this game is the one that you gain after completing all of the Black Cat side quests. It's just a black and red suit and it looks perfect.
Spider, you raced here to redeem me, didn't you? You're adorable. And cute, too. Which is why I made you something more flattering. If you've got it, flaunt it.
This couldn't all have just been a game, could it?
Maybe that's why I also like Miles Morales' suit so much. The last thing I want to talk about before getting into the story is the game's combat system. Combat is something that a game can struggle to get right, as it has to be challenging enough for experienced players, ideally without making everyone just massive bullet sponges and lowering your damage output. But at the same time, someone who has never played a video game in their life before also needs to be able to pick up combat within like 10 minutes per se. I would say Spider-Man walks that line kind of well. Breaking it down to its most simplest form, combat can be very easy. Just hold your square button and launch the bad guys up into the air, attack them a lot, they die, oh sorry, they don't die, they pass out, and then repeat. But if you wanted more of a challenge, there are so many more attacks and combinations you can throw in there. From webbing and throwing the bad guys around to slamming them into walls and floors and launching yourself off the wall into their face. However, on harder difficulties, I do find that your opponents can get a little bit bullet, or in this case, web spongy for my liking. So let's get into the meat of the game, and starting with side activities, which there are many throughout the game. Some of them, however, being reskins of the other one, and the first one would be active crimes. You can find randomly across the open world. There are 4 different types, being store robberies, muggings, to stolen cars and the likes. And you get these activities for each faction in the game, that being your common thug/gang member, the demons, the raft prisoners, and Sable International. These crimes can be pretty quick and don't take too long to do, so they are not that much of an inconvenience. And whilst doing them, you also get some side objectives to do in the combat, if that be web and enemies to a wall, or swing kick enemies, or stuff like that, just to keep it nice and fresh-ish. Like many games in the open world genre, there are enemy compounds that you can attack, and like the crimes you find in the open world, each faction has their own little version of a hideout. There are the Fisk construction sites, demon warehouses, prisoners who have taken over a whole city block, and Sable who have set up prisoner camps for the general population. All of these are basically the same apart from a different lick of paint. Also, like the crimes, there are also side objectives that you are able to complete whilst you fight wave upon wave of enemies. Also, however, I know I just said they are all the same, but I have to say the demon ones are probably the worst, just because every other one takes place in the outside world where you can see the open city. It's just something nice to look at instead of the demon warehouses, which, if you take a hint by the name, they just happen to take place in a warehouse and there is nothing special about them. However, that cannot be said for the next thing, as it is very special, as halfway through the game, Taskmaster will contact you and, using the threat of ending innocent lives, will force you to partake in a set of challenges, that being stealth missions, chasing drones across the city, and just straight up brawls with a bunch of thugs. Taskmaster, clearly testing you after you complete all the challenges, will then attack you using all of your own moves against you, in which was a very fun battle to take part in, and also challenging, counting the fact that Taskmaster has access to all the stuff you do. However, unfortunately, this fight does go the way of many other boss fights in the game, where the only way to win is by webbing up or throwing stuff at your enemy and then using that small time while they are stunned to damage them. Littered across the map, there are police towers that have lost signal from the main server, and as the Good Samaritan Spider-Man is, you go around fixing them and maybe adding a little bit of a device in there that allows you to also access the police tower, which involves just a little wiggle of your analog sticks till the red line goes green. And whilst doing these, you can unlock a new area to view on the map. Basically, these are exactly like the towers you would climb up in any Assassin's Creed game with a sync point at the top of them. And lastly, like every other game, Spider-Man doesn't miss out on a chance to make you go around the map collecting meaningless things. This game's versions of collectibles are stuff along the lines of Peter Parker's backpacks that he has left around New York City throughout his 8 years of being Spider-Man, and also little campsites that Black Cat has set up for Spider-Man to find her little Black Cat statues. And this would normally be boring in any other game, and it also is in this game, but due to the aforementioned amazing traversal system, I didn't end up disliking it as much as I normally would in other open world games. The only other two games I enjoyed doing the collectibles would be Black Flag, because that game is just awesome and I wanted to 100% it, and Mafia 2, because, well, if you know, you know. So now let's tackle the real meaty meat of the game, that being the story. The game's story starts not where you would expect it to, but that's because at this point, we all know Spider-Man's story, especially at the start where he gets his powers. So this game doesn't waste time telling you that Peter got bitten by a spider that was radioactive and his uncle died. The game throws you right into the action, with Peter getting evicted from his apartment and also getting a phone call from the police captain about a raid currently happening on Fisk Tower, where obviously Wilson Fisk is presumed to be, which by the time the first mission is over, Peter has already defeated and sent Wilson to prison. And after that, the game is broken down into 3 acts. The first act of the game follows the effect on the world of crime of the capture of Fisk. As Fisk says to Spider-Man upon his capture, he kept the criminals in line. And now that he is gone, there will be no one to keep them in check.
finally off to Rikers, huh? You know, I think you've got more enemies in there than I do.
If you think this will be more than a minor inconvenience...
Whoop, gotta go. Hey, good luck, Willie. I have a feeling you're gonna need it.
Idiot! I'm the one who kept order in this city! 1 month! In 1 month you'll wish you had me back!
And throughout this act, you find out that Fisk may have been right the whole time, with crime being on the rise, especially with local thugs attacking innocent people on the streets, something that wouldn't have happened under Fisk, or at least would have happened a lot less, especially the part of putting innocent lives in danger. And there is also a new crime faction on the rise, one that is leading around a gang of people wearing ancient demon masks and seem to be using some kind of energy power on their weapons.
What the? Excuse me, sir. You can't be. Not good.
Where's the statue?
In there.
把文件找出来。
So Peter has to try and get to the bottom of this gang while still working his day job for Dr. Otto Octavius, where Peter and Otto are creating the next step in prosthetic limbs, whilst he also helps his Auntie May volunteering at Feast, a local homeless shelter run by a man called Martin Lee. And on top of all this, he is also trying to keep MJ, his ex, safe as she investigates the masked gang. And now is a good time to mention, throughout the game, there are a small handful of missions where you either have to play as Miss Mary Jane Watson or Miles Morales. These missions, to be quite frank, straight up suck. It's like, since the game is mostly designed to be played as Spider-Man, the couple missions where you don't have superpowers and have to walk and hide behind a bunch of stuff stick out like a sore thumb. There is only one of these missions where you play as MJ or Miles that I actually liked, but that will be talked about in Act 2. Act 1 ends with a massive boom. It starts off with Peter making his way to City Hall to go to an awards ceremony where Mayor Norman Osborn is giving an award to police officer Jefferson Davis, a man who helped Spider-Man stop a group of demons attacking the city. That being the masked demons, the gang, not like actual demons, kind of. Officer Davies also just so happening to be the father of Miles Morales. But the event is attacked by demons, and their leader, who Peter just finds out, is Martin Lee, the man his auntie works for. And he has some kind of negative energy that he is using to control his minions. And with this negative energy, he sets off a bomb, injuring many in an attack, also taking the life of Officer Davis, as he attempts to save the life of one Norman Osborn, which he is successful in doing. And then that explosion ends Act 1.
Are you okay? Miles! Miles! Peter! Come on, Peter. Miles! Miles!
Out of all 3 acts throughout the game, Act 1 has by far the most missions at a staggering 20 missions. However, this number is a little bit inflated as the starting act, like many other games, has to introduce you to all the side quests, which also, like many other games, Spider-Man does by first making you do them in a main storyline mission. So excluding these missions, this act is more closer to 14 or 12 main story missions, which still puts it above every other act in the game. Act 2 has the second most missions and starts off with Peter now knowing that Martin Li is the leader of the demons and the supervillain by the name Mr. Negative. So the act starts off with Peter searching a bunch of properties owned by Li. And while searching one of these locations for information on what Martin Li's plan is, whilst Peter is leaving the building, he becomes well introduced to the city's latest attempt to stop crime, that being the mercenary group known as Stable International, who, even in his own words, Spider-Man thinks they make a pretty cool entrance.
Copy, Silverbird. We're descending to location. There's another one.
Safety's off.
Well, this is new.
No. This one's mine.
All right.
I'm executing this son of a...
Hey! That's not how we do things! Down! Down!
Code SM1.
Whoa! Before we do this, who the hell are you guys?
Code SM1. Code SM1. Holding for orders. Copy Code SM1. I have a visual. Hold for Silverbird.
Nice entrance. Solid 8 out of 10. 9 out of 10.
Release him. He works with us.
Yuri, explanation, please?
This is Silver Sablinova, head of Sable International, a private security force.
A group that has been fully funded by Mayor Osborn, most likely out of his own pocket as he uses them to hide some of the more shadier stuff that Oscorp is doing. But Spidey resumes the search for Martin Li and his plans, which is where he finds out that Li wants to hurt Osborn at all costs. The plan to hurt Osborn is to use his own company to attack him, using a bioweapon nicknamed Devil's Breath, a compound that Norman has been working on within New York City limits, against many rules and regulations, as you can't really work on bioweapons in populated areas, believe it or not. So the race is now on between Spider-Man and Li to find the doctor that knows how to make said Devil's Breath, which of course for the story to continue onwards, Li finds him first and finds Devil Breath itself and plans to release it in Grand Central Station. And guess who just so happens to be in the crowd at Grand Central Station? That's right, Mary Jane Watson. And well, I may have just said happens to be, but that is incorrect, as she knew the attack was going to happen and had come there anyways to attempt to stop it, I guess, or like report on it, I guess. But this just so happens to be that one mission where you don't play as Spider-Man that I mentioned liking. To be more direct, I like the part of the mission where Spider-Man sneaks into Grand Central Station and MJ is sneaking around telling him when to take people out. Now, obviously, I would have preferred to have played this stealth section as Spider-Man. Yes, obviously, after that, you do actually get to play as Spider-Man inside Grand Central Station. But I enjoyed controlling Spider-Man as MJ. So Spider-Man gets the Devil's Breath out of the hands of Li and into the safe hands of Stable, who are transporting it for the police. So before I say what happened to said transport, it is important that we also catch up on Peter Parker's normal life, as Peter and Doc Ock have made a lot of progress on their research into making better prosthetic arms and legs. At this point, they have made 4 operational octopus-like legs, and they are currently working on a neural network chip that will help the occupant control the arms and legs. However, in its current state, it could have some negative effects on the mind, as Peter points out when Doc Ock experiments on himself using the arms and the chip. So back to the transporting of Devil's Breath, and if you couldn't tell from that little bit of foreshadowing I just did, setting up, Doc Ock attacks the transport, releasing the Devil's Breath in Times Square, but Peter doesn't know this as he's on his way to the transport that was attacked when there is a large-scale prison escape on Rikers Island. So Pete must go over there to stop the escape and riot. Luckily, the place where they send all of the supervillains, that being a prison in the middle of the Hudson River, referred to as the Raft, is completely unconnected and on systems to Rikers Island. So after stopping the riots on Rikers, who could have guessed it? The Raft is now under attack and looks to be experiencing large electrical failures.
I thought you said the raft was secure.
It was. Let's go.
Maybe it's not as bad as it looks.
Love the optimism. But in my experience, when it looks bad, it's usually worse. Look out! Ah! Yuri!
So Peter makes his way over there where he runs into some of the biggest bad guys that he has put behind bars. That being Mr. Negative, Electro, Vulture, Rhino and Scorpion. But they were all already in the prison. They couldn't have started the escape. Peter finds out who did after chasing Electro to the top of Raft. When after seeing the 5 villains, one more shows up. That being his mentor, and using the arms that Peter helped him make, Doc Ock, who attacks Spider-Man, throwing him away, therefore ending Act 1, with the city being left in absolute turmoil, with lots of escapees on the loose, and the Sinister Six attacking Oscorp-owned buildings, with Spider-Man currently down and out, needing to take some time to mend after being attacked on the raft.
Remember, he said not to kill him.
Good idea. In fact, we don't have to do this at all if you don't want to.
We definitely want. Ah!
First and final warning. Stay out of our way. Each of you has a job to do. Your debts will be repaid when we're done. Go!
Act 3 is by far the shortest but the most action-packed of the acts, where there are very few quests where you don't end up in a boss fight with one of the members of the Sinister Six. There is one mission where you have to play as Miles, who is trying to steal some medicine for Feast. However, if you ignore that mission, this chapter has 7 missions where Peter has to take down the Sinister Six and Stable and all her goons. Which of course he does. But on the second to last mission where Peter has to beat Lee and stop him from obtaining a cure for Devil's Breath, Peter also kind of helps him to come to terms with his powers, which you find out was given to him by Norman Osborn. However, during this heartfelt moment between the two of them, Dr. Otto Octavius shows up and just straight up beats up Spider-Man to the point where he is barely alive as his basically dead, hanging to life corpse is carried into Feast. But after about half a day of healing and one pep talk from MJ, Peter makes his way to Doc Ock's lab. Because as MJ said, Peter helped Doc make his arms. And with that advice, Peter realizes that if he can make the arms, he can make a suit which can withstand the arms.
Where are you going?
I need to find Otto. He has the anti-serum. I don't know if I can beat him.
Maybe you can't. Maybe Spider-Man needs help from his friend Peter.
What?
Peter helped build those arms, remember? If anyone can find a weakness, it's him. Go get him, Tiger.
And as he gets to Otto's lab, he makes himself a flashy new suit of armor that will allow him to defeat Otto. The final fight starts atop the Oscorp building, much like in The Amazing Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield with the Lizard and Gwen Stacy's dad. The fight takes place atop the Oscorp roof. And some of the boss fights were a bit easy, to be honest. Luckily, Doc Ock's boss fight was not. It was a good challenge. But of course, Spider-Man does end up winning. However, Otto damages Spider-Man's mask, where it is revealed to Otto that Spider-Man is Peter Parker. However, in return, it is revealed to Peter Parker that Otto was already aware of this and still tries to destroy him.
Such a disappointment. Parker.
You knew?
I tried to warn you, Peter, but you didn't listen.
You knew?
However, this act, obviously being the most action-packed act there is, also is able to pack a punch in the emotional sector, since there are a couple very emotional scenes in this last chapter, including the incredible scene where Doc Ock has been trapped under parts of the fallen debris of Oscorp Tower and is just trying wildly to convince Peter to help him.
Peter, I saw you as a son. I should have known you'd turn on me, just like all the others.
Turn. I worshipped you. Your mind, your conscience, wanting to help others. The way you never gave up.
That's because men like us have a duty, a responsibility, to use our talents in the service of others. Even if they don't appreciate it, we have to do what's best for those beneath us, whether they understand it or not.
No, you're wrong. You are everything I wanted to be. You just threw it away.
Yes, of course. You're right, Peter. Oh, I see that now. The neural interface affected my mind. But I can fix it. We can fix it. Together. If you'll help me.
Do everything I can. I'll make sure you get the best help.
No! If they put me away, they'll take my arms! I'll be trapped in this useless body! Please, Peter. That wasn't me. You said you'd never abandon me. You promised. Remember? And of course, you'll rest easy, knowing your secret is safe with me.
You do what you think is best, Doc. It's all any of us can.
Peter?
Even when it hurts like hell.
Peter, where are you going? Peter? Peter!
And then there is the scene where I'm pretty sure everyone who played this game cried just a little bit. And that being where May is on her deathbed and Spider-Man is in the room with her with the cure for Devil's Breath.
I want to see my nephew.
You knew?
I've known for a while.
I never wanted you to worry.
I did. And I am so proud of you. And Ben would be too. All the people you've saved.
I don't know what to do.
Yes, you do.
That scene got me, man. I shed at least 2 tears there. All this to say that Spider-Man on the PS4 may have been the best game I have ever played. And I will say, that did scare me a bit. Like, will the next game in the series hold up? Well, Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales. A game that is classed as a spin-off continuation of the first one, but I personally see it as more of a DLC, even though Spider-Man has its own DLC. Like, I would compare this game, not in quality or anything like that, but in concept to a Saints Row Get Out of Hell. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but it is the same kind of thing. Also, I just want to quickly add, if I sound a little bit different in this video, I'm currently at the back end of a cold, so hopefully it's not too bad. Many things, like combat and web slinging, use the exact same mechanics as the first game, apart from in this game you have the ability to jump at the end of a swing, which might not be the most realistic thing with physics and what have you and stuff. But it is indeed a nice addition. But all the animations have also been changed to separate Miles from Peter, with Morales' movement being more stylized, however also being a little bit more clunky and slow compared to Peter, clearly indicating that Miles is new and maybe doesn't have the knowledge and experience that Peter has learned, or as one GameStop reviewer may say.
Leaps off of rooftops and flips backwards to face the camera before falling into a headfirst dive is just full of the exaggerated swagger of a black teen. It gives me goosebumps every time he does it, especially as the music begins to swell.
Not what I personally would say, but it is clear that Peter and Miles swing in very different ways. If that is with Miles expressing himself or not being as skilled as Peter in the art of not destroying your back while swinging around the city.
Yeah, that's good. That was it.
Wow. That's good.
Right?
That's better.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, I did say that Peter is more skilled than Miles, which is very clearly true when Miles makes an error during the transport of Rhino.
Someone bigger? Okay, we got a problem. Hold back, Miles. Let me take... I got this, Pete. Don't worry. Oh, no! It's secure.
You're drifting Helix 2. We have a weight imbalance. Direction 236. Rudder's unresponsive. Brace for impact. Helix 2 going down. Helix 2 is going down. Brace, brace, brace!
However, that doesn't mean that Morales is less powerful, as when he was bitten by the spider, he got all the same powers that Peter has. But he also got a couple extra powers that Peter doesn't have, and that is something you discover whilst you are trying to contain the Rhino. After Peter is lying on the ground hanging on for dear life, Miles summons a power from deep down inside himself that he didn't know he had, and that being a form of energy that would be referred to as a venom power, and it indeed packs a punch.
Miles, get out of here. Back the hell? What was that?
For those people like me who don't know Miles Morales as much, and especially didn't know him before the game and the Into the Spider-Verse movie, this power actually has nothing to do with the Venom symbiote, which I thought it did. But this Venom power does indeed make Miles Morales the more quote-unquote powerful Spider-Man. That is until Peter merges with said Venom symbiote in Spider-Man 2. Now, it's not just Miles having the Venom powers that separate the two games in terms of mechanics, as this game looks absolutely amazing, using the PS5's far superior specs to bring out an even more jaw-dropping scenes than in the last game. Unlike in the last video, however, I was playing this game on the PlayStation 5 and not PC, so I was unable to have ray tracing with max graphics and also play at 60 FPS. And let's just say I have been a PC gamer for a little bit too long, and I am now at the point where I cannot play a game at 30 FPS. I also feel that when you switch it up to the high fidelity max settings mode on the PlayStation 5, the game also just lagged. But that could just be my eyes seeing 30 FPS for the first time in many years. But however, I did very much enjoy just popping the settings up to max and just sitting on top of the Chrysler building, looking out at the amazing landscape of New York City. It is a very well-known fact that this PlayStation Spider-Man game didn't want to tell Peter Parker's origin story, as everyone has heard that story before. However, in missing out in Peter's origin story and his beginning years as Spider-Man, you also miss out on that feeling of Peter being your local neighborhood Spider-Man, as his villains, to quote Jake Gyllenhaal, are Avengers-level threats, with the likes of the Sinister Six. And Peter's Spider-Man feels less connected to your local New Yorker, where in Miles Morales, we get to feel like said local Spider-Man. It helps that Miles' story, even though it does take part all over Manhattan, it feels very much like it's based in just the neighborhood of Harlem. And the best way to show this will be to explain the story. So, after defeating Rhino by Miles using the Venom Punch, a company called Roxxon shows up to take Rhino away. Roxxon own the power plant where the Spider-Men were fighting the Rhino. They also just so happen to own a massive plaza tower complex just to the end of the street that Miles lives on. This plaza also has something called a Nuform reactor, something that is said to have the ability to power Harlem for 500 years, which may sound too real to be true because, well, it is. And after taking down Rhino and going for a family dinner, where Miles meets an old friend called Finn, the next day Miles gets to work keeping the city safe as Peter Parker has gone on vacation. I guess Spider-Men get vacation hours. Mainly keeping the city safe from a new group called the Underground, a hacking extremist group, which is very much like the Deckers from Saints Row the Third, which means I don't really know how I feel about them with that comparison in my mind. However, Miles' friend Ganke makes him an app. People can use the app to request assistance from Spidey. And the first person who uses this app just so happens to be Miles Morales' estranged uncle, Aaron Davis, who works for the local train company and needs help as the trains, for whatever reason, are not running on time. So Miles is sent to find out what the issue was, and of course it was being caused by the Underground. However, after defeating the Underground, Miles gets the trains back on time and goes to return to Mr. Davis to inform him. However, after returning, this is when Miles becomes completely shocked that Mr. Aaron straight up can just tell that Miles is Spider-Man.
How did you... okay, gotta go.
Hold up, Miles. I kinda suspected when I saw the news yesterday. Watching your moves on those escape cons, juking guys left and right, could have sworn I was back at the park playing pickup with you and your dad. You were quick then. A lot quicker now. Don't worry, I won't tell your mom.
Promise?
Promise. Look at you. If your dad could see you now...
He'd probably freak out.
He'd definitely freak out. So you taking over for the other Spider-Man?
Nah. Like I said, he's just on vacation.
And Miles was even changing his voice a bit, something Peter has never done, unless of course he's been Spider-Cop. But as we will find out later, Aaron is also a villain known as the Prowler. But Miles doesn't know this yet, and he has to stop off to go to his mum's rally as she is running for some sort of seat in the local government. And of course, the Underground ends up attacking this event as Roxxon guards are there. Guards who look like they are straight up out of Call of Duty Advanced Warfare with those exosuits. But it turns out the attack on the rally was just a distraction as the leader of the Underground, the Tinkerer, and others attack a shipment of Nuform on a bridge, which Miles of course makes his way there to start fighting them. During the fight, Spider-Man uses a Venom Punch on the Tinkerer, which makes her electronic mask fail, revealing that the Tinkerer is Miles' friend from before, Finn. And it also just so happens to supercharge the Nuform, making it an even more powerful bomb. So now Miles goes on a journey to find out why Finn joined the Underground, becoming now de facto leader. Whilst snooping around, Miles finds out that Finn's brother Rick was one of the leaders on the Nuform project at Roxxon, and he found out that Nuform was making people sick, so Finn and Rick break into a Roxxon lab to record the proof they need. But yet there is not much of a record of what happened after that lab, so Miles makes his way into the lab where somehow his uncle Aaron shows up in his Prowler gear to help keep Miles safe. Obviously Aaron knowing the threat that Roxxon can be, him having worked with them in the past, which I'm sure will not come back to hurt Miles in the future. But after finding a video of Rick and Finn in the Roxxon lab, Miles decides to tell Finn that he is Spider-Man and that they can work together to take down Roxxon the right way, which of course Finn, being a supervillain, declines such an offer. But whilst meeting up to talk about it at Trinity Church, Finn and Miles are attacked by Rhino, who was rocking some very new Roxxon upgrades to his armor, which is just a bit odd counting Rhino's whole thing is he wants out of the armor. But hey, Miles and Finn would stand no chance against this Rhino in his new armor, being captured and taken to a Roxxon facility.
What?
Where, after working together, they are able to escape and make their way to the lobby of the building, where Miles finds out that his uncle Prowler is working with Roxxon currently and arranged the attack by Rhino, although they were meant to leave Spider-Man out of it. And he also learns that the head of the Roxxon Research and Development, Simon Krieger, has upped the power of the Nuform reactor in Harlem. But before he can tell the Tinkerer, Rhino attacks them, where after a long fight, Miles is able to take him down, but however, Finn runs off, with the Underground planning to go ahead with their planned attack on the Nuform reactor and the Roxxon Plaza, with Finn not believing what Miles is saying about the Nuform reactor. The results of attacking this overpowered reactor could leave Harlem in complete rubble, so Miles must obviously try to stop the Underground. Whilst making his way through multiple underground locations, Miles is attacked by the Prowler, with Aaron trying not to lose his nephew the way he lost his brother. So in order to do that, he chooses to violently attack Miles. But after the fight is over, Miles still struggling to convince Finn that Simon has overpowered the reactor, and if she attacks it, it won't just blow up the plaza but all of Harlem. After a showdown between Spider-Man and the Underground at an Oscorp Science Center, where Finn steals a energy converter that she and Miles made way back in high school. Also, quick little bonus here, you get a little throwback scene where you're playing as younger Miles with Finn, where they are trying to break into the center to see their own experiment, where we also get to see one Peter Parker and Otto Octavius looking at some stuff on their lunch break, which is kind of weird because Peter's doing a full day of work to the point where he gets a lunch break, and also Otto would go into a Oscorp building. Not too sure about those, but it's a nice little Easter egg anyways. But after that scene, when Finn gets what she needs to make the bomb, it is time for the Battle of Harlem, where the Underground and Roxxon forces are fighting all over the neighborhood. So Miles starts to clean up the mess when Finn starts her attack on the reactor, where next up, after making his way through Harlem cleaning the streets, Miles confronts Finn in a epic boss battle, which was by far the hardest boss fight, not just in this game, but in the other Spider-Man game as well. Like, it was so rewarding to beat Finn because it took me so many attempts to do so. However, a little bit too late as the reactor has already gone critical, and seeing what the reactor is doing, Finn now knows that Miles was telling the truth. And whilst trying to absorb the energy with his venom powers, Miles sort of faints, unable to contain the power within himself for long. So in a last-ditch effort to save people, Finn flies Miles into the air just in time as Miles releases the supercharged Nuform energy into the sky, however killing Finn in the process as Miles tumbles towards the ground, and upon crashing into said ground, his mask removed. This is where we get another reference back to that train scene from Spider-Man 2, where the people of Harlem choose not to tell the reporters or the police that they saw Spider-Man's face, which I feel for the end of the story is a very sweet moment and enforces that feeling of Miles being the local neighborhood Spider-Man, where Peter is more of the world-ending events Spidey. Even though a massive nuclear-style reactor almost exploded in the middle of New York City, which could very much be considered a world-level event, it still makes you feel like a Harlem event, and that Miles is just helping the people of Harlem, the people who help him. But it will be interesting to see if Marvel's Spider-Man 2 keeps the same feeling of Miles being your local Spider-Man, and if Miles still feels like a new, fresh Superman in the new game, or maybe it's a bit of a time jump and Miles is a much more skillful tacticianer. And it'll be interesting to see how this affects his character. But I am very confident in the team at Insomniac. I can't wait to play Spider-Man 2 when it releases later this month. Although I also couldn't wait to play Jedi Survivor, and we all saw how that did on launch, to the point where I still haven't played it today. Fingers crossed this won't be the same though, which, if I'm being 100% honest, I don't think it will, because I don't think Sony release a Spider-Man game like that, because I could see that affecting them having the license for Spider-Man. Although obviously won't, because Marvel tried to get it back in the past. Listen, the law's confusing, I don't know. I'm just gonna wait and go play Spider-Man 2 as soon as it comes out and have an absolute blast, hopefully. Hopefully. And I hope I'll see you guys in my next video.
He's our Spider-Man. Man, I still can't get over that suit. So cool.
Gotta be me.
Yeah, you do.
Pete, does this job ever get easier?
Some of it, yeah. Some things never get easier, though.
Roxxon did this uptown because they saw us as disposable. Me, Rick, Finn, all of Harlem. I think part of our job is making sure they can't get away with it.
We'll add it to the Spider-Man oath. Go time?
Go time.